Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to Comics By. Tonight, before we begin, I want you to gently adjust your pillow. Let your shoulders sink into the mattress. Allow your hands to rest softly by your sides. Take a slow breath in through your nose. Hold it gently, and slowly let it go. Again, slow inhale, soft pause. Long, gentle exhale. Feel your body becoming heavier. Feel your thoughts slowing down, like snow settling quietly across a quiet field. If there is anything on your heart tonight, any small regret, any memory that replays when the world grows quiet, you don't have to fight it. You don't have to fix it right now. Just let it rest beside you. Because tonight's story is about a train that only runs at night, and it carries something very special. Not passengers rushing somewhere, not cargo, not noise. It carries regret and gently transforms it into healing. Now, let us begin. In a quiet town called Silver Hollow, where the streets shimmer faintly under moonlight and the rooftops glow silver after dusk, there stands an old railway station at the very edge of town. By day, it looks forgotten. The wooden benches are worn smooth from years of waiting. The paint on the station sign has faded until only faint letters remain. Wildflowers grow between the rails as if reclaiming something abandoned. Children sometimes play near it in the afternoon, daring one another to step onto the platform. But no trains arrive. No whistles blow. No announcements echo. Most people assume the tracks no longer connect to anywhere. But at exactly midnight, something changes. The air grows still. The wind softens. Even the crickets seem to lower their song. The town's streetlights flicker once, twice, and then hold steady. And along the old metal rails, a glow begins. Soft at first, like distant fireflies gathering beneath the earth. Then brighter. The metal tracks shimmer gold. The platform warms beneath invisible light. And without steam, without thunder, without any sound at all, a train appears. It does not arrive from far away. It simply becomes visible. Its body is deep midnight blue, almost blending into the sky. Thin lines of golden light trace its edges. Its windows glow warmly, like 100 tiny lanterns floating in darkness. Its wheels do not screech. They hum, low, gentle, comforting. This is the Midnight Healer. It has no timetable, no tickets, no fixed destination. It arrives only for those carrying something heavy in their hearts. One night, a young woman named Clara lay awake in her small bedroom at the edge of town. The clock ticked slowly. The house was quiet, but her mind was loud. She kept replaying a memory, over and over. A friendship, an argument, a silence that lasted too long. Years ago, Clara had a best friend named Amelia. They were inseparable. They shared secrets under blankets during sleepovers, shared notebooks filled with dreams, shared laughter that made their stomachs ache. They once promised they would attend each other's weddings, grow old in neighboring houses, always stay connected. But one small misunderstanding grew larger than it needed to. A message was misread, a tone misinterpreted. Words were said too quickly. Pride stood tall between them. Neither reached out first. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, months into years. And now, Amelia lived far away. Clara often opened her phone and typed a message, then erased it. The longer she waited, the heavier it felt. That night, unable to sleep, Clara sat up in her bed. Her chest felt tight, not dramatic, not overwhelming, just heavy, like carrying a book she no longer needed but couldn't put down. She wrapped herself in a sweater and stepped outside. The moon seemed brighter than usual, almost guiding her. Without fully deciding to, she began walking, past quiet houses, past sleeping streets, past familiar corners she had known since childhood. Her feet carried her somewhere her mind had not planned, until she stood before the old railway station. And there it was, glowing. The golden light shimmered across the platform. The train doors stood open. A tall conductor waited beside them. He wore a navy coat stitched with faint silver threads, like constellations sewn into fabric. His hair was streaked with silver. His eyes were kind, ancient, patient. "You've been holding something for a long time," he said softly. Clara did not ask how he knew. She simply nodded and stepped aboard. Inside, the train felt warmer than she expected. The seats were soft velvet in shades of deep blue. Lanterns floated gently near the ceiling, casting a honey-colored glow. The air smelled faintly of lavender and old books. Other passengers sat quietly. An elderly man holding a pocket watch, a teenage girl clutching a folded letter, a mother staring softly at a tiny knitted hat in her hands. No one spoke, but no one felt alone. The train began to move, not forward, not backward, but inward. Outside Clara's window, she did not see trees or towns. She saw memories. They appeared like moving reflections in glass. She saw herself and Amelia laughing at a cafe. She saw them studying late at night, surrounded by snacks and open notebooks. She saw them dancing in a living room with music too loud and curtains wide open. Then she saw the argument. But this time it moved slowly. She noticed Amelia's trembling voice, her crossed arms, the fear hidden beneath both of their words. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of not mattering, fear of losing something precious. Tears rolled gently down Clara's cheeks. The conductor approached and handed her a small silver mirror. "Look again," he whispered. Clara looked into the mirror, and instead of seeing someone stubborn, she saw someone afraid. Afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of admitting she was hurt. She saw hurt that had disguised itself as anger. The memory shifted, not changing the past, but revealing what had been hidden beneath it. Regret, Clara realized, was grief. Grief for something beautiful. The train did not erase her mistake. It softened her judgment. It gave her compassion for the version of herself who didn't know how to say, "That hurt me." When the train slowed again, Clara closed her eyes. When she opened them, she was back in her bed. Morning sunlight touched her curtains. Her heart felt tender, but lighter. That day, she wrote a letter. Not to demand forgiveness, not to reopen wounds, but simply to say, "Thank you for the years we shared. I'm sorry for my part." And whether or not Amelia replied, Clara finally rested.
And the Midnight Healer continued. Because regret is not rare. It is quiet. It lives in small corners of the heart. One evening, a teacher named Thomas sat alone in his classroom long after the students had gone home. The sunlight had faded. The hallway lights had dimmed. He stared at an empty desk near the window. Years ago, a student had sat there. A quiet boy who struggled with math. One afternoon, exhausted and overwhelmed, Thomas had said something he never meant to wound with. "Maybe this just isn't for you." The boy never returned. Thomas never forgot. The sentence echoed louder at night than it ever had in the classroom. That night, Thomas walked without thinking, and the station shimmered before him. The train doors opened. The conductor nodded. Inside, the train showed him the classroom again, but this time it zoomed closer. It showed the student's notebook, messy pages filled with attempts. crossed out problems rewritten again and again. Effort. So much effort. Thomas felt his throat tighten. He had mistaken imperfection for laziness. Then the train showed him something unexpected. His younger self, sitting at a desk, struggling, trying desperately to be perfect, afraid of disappointing his own teachers. He realized something painful and freeing. He had spoken from his own old fear, not from truth. The conductor handed him a piece of chalk. "Teach the way you needed to be taught," he said gently. Thomas watched more memories. Students he had helped, moments he had encouraged. He saw that one mistake did not erase years of care. When he woke the next morning, he changed something simple. He wrote on the board, "Trying matters more than getting it right," and he said it softly, often. The shadow did not disappear instantly, but it grew lighter, and that was enough. The train ran again the next night, and the next, and it will continue. For as long as human hearts carry memories they wish had unfolded differently. Now, take a slow breath. Let your body sink deeper. The Midnight Healer is still running, and this is only the beginning of its journey.
Some nights, the train carried the weight of quiet parents who worried they had not done enough. One such night, a young father named Daniel found himself standing in his kitchen long after his son had gone to bed. The house was still, save for the soft hum of the refrigerator. Earlier that day, work had been difficult, traffic slow, and his head heavy with unspoken worries. And when his little son had spilled juice across the floor, Daniel had raised his voice louder than he meant to. The boy's eyes had filled with tears, not from the spill, but from the sharpness in his father's tone. Daniel had apologized later. He had hugged him, read an extra bedtime story, but still the echo of his own anger haunted him. He leaned his forehead against the cool glass of the kitchen window. "I don't want to be that kind of father," he whispered into the quiet of the night. Outside, the moon hung low, round and gentle, spilling silver light across the street. And somewhere in the distance, very faintly, he heard it, a hum along the rails, soft as a lullaby, comforting as a hand on the shoulder. Daniel didn't remember walking to the old station, but there he was. The golden glow touched the wildflowers along the platform. The conductor stood waiting, quiet and patient. "You are afraid of becoming someone you are not," he said gently. Daniel nodded and stepped aboard. Inside, the train felt warmer than he had imagined. The seats were plush and soft beneath him, blue velvet, deep as night. Lanterns floated gently near the ceiling, their light golden and forgiving. Other passengers were there, quietly tending to their own griefs and regrets. The train moved inward, as it always did. Outside his window, he did not see streets or houses, or even the faint glow of Silver Hollow. He saw memories. He saw himself months earlier, kneeling on the floor building toy towers, helping his son with small hands held tightly in his own. He saw the boy's face light up when Daniel came home. He saw 1,000 small moments of care that he had forgotten in the rush of days. The conductor handed him a small hourglass, its sand glimmering faintly like starlight. "One loud moment does not define a loving heart," he said softly. Daniel's throat tightened as the sand trickled slowly. He realized that parenting, like life, was not about perfection, but presence. And with that realization, the weight in his chest softened. Morning light spilled across the kitchen tiles, and when his son padded in, sleepy-eyed, Daniel knelt down, smiling gently. "I'm still learning," he said softly. His son hugged him, and the echo of yesterday's sharp voice faded into nothing. The train carried many others, each with a story heavy and unspoken. There was Arjun, the university student, restless and anxious, who thought his changing majors and uncertain future meant failure. The train showed him his own childhood curiosity, taking apart a broken radio, mapping imaginary cities, filling notebooks with stories.
It reminded him that a wandering mind is not lost, it is searching. Paths are never wasted because they change. The compass above his seat spun slowly and finally settled, not pointing outward to a career, but inward toward interest, joy, and meaning. Arjun woke the next morning calm for the first time in weeks. The panic had softened into patience, and that was enough. On colder nights, the midnight healer carried those weighed down by years of distance and silence. Margaret, an elderly woman, stood before a wooden chest in her attic, the lid creaking as it opened. Inside were photographs, letters, memories carefully preserved, and one photograph she could never face for long. Her sister, who had not spoken to her in 22 years. A disagreement over inheritance had turned into distance, distance into silence, silence into habit. Margaret often told herself it was too late, but at night the glow beyond her window pulled her gently, irresistibly to the station. The train's warmth wrapped her even as frost painted silver lines along the rooftops. Inside, she carried the photograph with trembling hands. The train moved inward. She saw the argument again, heard the sharpness in their voices, the pride stiffening their backs. And then, slowly, the memory widened. She saw her sister crying alone later that night, herself crying too. Both had believed the other did not care. Both had waited. The conductor placed a small hourglass in her palm. The sand shimmered like tiny stars. Time moves, but love does not vanish so easily, Margaret understood. Deep and tender. It was not too late. Regret had frozen her heart, but love lived beneath it, quietly. Morning came, light spilling across the attic floor. She dialed a number she had memorized decades ago. It rang, once, twice, 3 times, and then a familiar voice answered. Her heart lifted, light and steady. The midnight healer carried more than just individual regrets. It carried lost joy, abandoned dreams, and the silent grief of lives unspoken. Sophia, a young artist, boarded one night, shoulders hunched, carrying sketchbooks she had abandoned months ago. Every drawing felt flawed. Every attempt seemed smaller than her imagination. The train showed her childhood drawings, crooked houses, purple trees, smiling suns. She remembered drawing simply because it felt good. The conductor handed her a blank page. "Create without audience," he whispered. The windows filled with color as brushstrokes danced across the glass, messy, imperfect, alive. Sophia woke with a promise not to produce a masterpiece, but to spend 10 minutes drawing freely every day. And slowly, joy returned. Some nights, the midnight healer carried those weighed down by years of distance and silence. An elderly fisherman who had missed years of birthdays with his daughter boarded quietly. The train showed him those lost moments, not to punish him, but to illuminate the love behind his absence. His daughter spoke kindly of him in the memory, recalling that he had worked hard because he loved them. Regret softened into gratitude. When he awoke, he picked up the phone and made a simple call. Healing began in the present. The train never judged. It did not rush. It illuminated. It breathed with the hearts it carried. Perhaps tonight it pauses near your home. Perhaps you carry a word you wish you had said. Perhaps a risk you never took. Perhaps a version of yourself you judged too harshly. If you see golden light beyond your window, know this: regret is proof that your heart feels deeply. Healing is proof that it is growing. You do not need to fix everything tonight. You do not need to rewrite yesterday. You are allowed to rest while still becoming. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel your mattress beneath you. Feel your blanket wrapped around you. Let your thoughts drift like clouds across a midnight sky. The midnight healer hums softly. Its wheels glide along glowing rails. The conductor waits. Healing moves softly, invisibly through the night. You are not alone. You are human, and you are allowed to sleep peacefully.
The train did not rush. It never rushed. It moved gently along glowing silver tracks that seemed to float between earth and sky. Inside the carriage, the lights were warm and golden. The seats were soft velvet. The windows reflected stars that shimmered like quiet promises. Oliver sat by the window. He had already passed through the carriage of memories. He had walked through the compartment of quiet tears. He had left behind heavy thoughts at the station of letting go. But now, the train slowed. Not suddenly, not sharply, just enough for him to notice. A soft chime echoed through the carriage. A calm voice, warm and steady, whispered through the air. Next stop, the carriage of facing. The door at the end of the train slowly opened. Oliver stood up. His steps were careful, but not afraid. As he entered the next carriage, the lights were dimmer here. Blue, silver, calm. The seats were empty. The air felt still. At the center of the carriage stood a large mirror framed in gentle light. Not a frightening mirror, not a harsh one, just quiet. He stepped closer. At first he saw only himself, small, thoughtful, silent. But then the reflection changed. He saw moments when he felt unsure, moments when he thought he was not strong enough, moments when he felt alone. The reflection showed his fears, not as monsters, not as shadows, just as soft clouds around him. The train continued moving, steady beneath his feet. The mirror shimmered, and a gentle voice filled the carriage. Fear is not your enemy. It is a passenger. Oliver looked closer. The clouds around his reflection began to thin. He realized something. The fears were never larger than him. They only seemed large because he never looked directly at them. He placed his hand gently on the mirror, and softly he said, "I see you." The clouds dissolved. The reflection cleared. Now he saw himself again, but different, straighter, calmer, stronger. The mirror slowly faded. The carriage lights warmed. The door to the next compartment opened quietly. The train did not stop. It continued forward, always forward. Part 5. The last stop before dawn. The final carriage was unlike the others. It was wide, open, filled with soft golden light. The ceiling looked like the night sky itself, stars slowly drifting like lanterns. There were no seats here, only space. Space to breathe, space to rest. At the far end of the carriage stood a single door glowing softly. Above it, written in gentle light, were the words, "Home." Oliver did not rush toward it. He walked slowly. Each step felt lighter than the last. The train began to slow again. Outside the windows, the sky was changing. The dark blue of night was softening into early dawn. The stars blinked gently, preparing to fade. He reached the glowing door. Before opening it, he turned once more to look around. This train had carried him through memories, through fears, through sadness, through quiet understanding. It had not erased his pain. It had not removed his past. It had simply helped him sit with it, breathe with it, understand it. The warm voice returned one final time. You were never broken. You were only healing. The train gave one last gentle hum. He placed his hand on the door, and slowly he opened it. White light filled his vision. Soft, not blinding, just warm. And then he felt something different. A pillow beneath his head, a blanket around his shoulders, morning air touching his face. He was back in his own bed, safe,
still, breathing slowly. The train of healing was gone, but its rhythm remained in his chest, like steady rails beneath his heart. Outside his window, the first light of sunrise painted the sky in soft pink and gold. Birds began their quiet morning song. Oliver did not jump out of bed. He did not rush into the day. He lay there for a moment, feeling, present, calm. The train had not taken him somewhere new. It had brought him back to himself, and that was enough. Now, dear listener, as this journey gently comes to its final stop, let your breathing slow. Imagine yourself seated on that quiet train. Feel the steady movement beneath you, the soft golden lights, the peaceful rhythm. Your fears are only passengers. They board, they sit, and eventually they step off. You remain, whole, strong, healing. The train does not disappear forever. Whenever you close your eyes, whenever you breathe deeply, whenever you choose kindness towards yourself, the rails appear again, and the journey continues gently. For now, let the train rest. Let your thoughts settle like dawn light on quiet tracks. Let your heart feel steady. You are not broken. You are healing. And healing is a journey, not a destination. The train of healing has reached its final stop for tonight. Rest now. Sleep softly. And when morning comes, carry that gentle rhythm with you. Good night. Sweet dreams.